So we're going to look at a definition regarding when we have an exponent of 0. And we know that when we have a number that's not 0 raised to the 0 power, it equals 1. Now that might be a little unbelievable to you. So let's just look at a rough proof of why this is the case. So remember that we have the fraction 5 divided by 5. Everybody is sure that 5 divided by 5 equals 1. What about 25 divided by 25? Again, everyone knows that 25 divided by 25 equals 1. Well, 25 is the same as saying 5 squared. So I can rewrite 25 over 25 as 5 squared divided by 5 squared. If 25 divided by 25 equals 1, well, 5 squared divided by 5 squared also equals 1. And now I also know that 5 squared divided by 5 squared, I could use the quotient rule, which means I can subtract the exponents. So that would say, well, 5 to the power of 2 minus 2, which simplifies to 5 to the 0 power. And I already know this expression equals 1. So if 25 divided by 25 equals 1, that means 5 squared divided by 5 squared equals 1. And therefore, if I subtract the exponents and get 5 to the 0, that should still equal 1. Okay, so in order for our previous rules to be true, 5 to the 0 has to equal 1. Okay, so let's try some expressions here. In letter A, we have 4 to the 0 power. Well, that equals 1. Let's take a look at B. Notice how in parentheses we have -4 in parentheses, and then outside of parentheses, we're to the 0 power. Well, that means that equals 1. But C is a little different. C has negative and then 4 to the 0 power. In other words, you could look at this as -1 times 4 to the 0 power. So we want to evaluate 4 to the 0 power first. So that's going to give us 1. Bring down the multiplication. And -1 times 1 gives us -1 as our answer. So in summary, the -1 is not being taken to the 0 power. The -1, in fact, we assume that's taken to the first power. Okay. All right, let's take a look at D. Z to the 0 power. That's equal to 1. Okay, now E has a little bit more involvement. We have a -4 Z to the 0 power. In other words, that means -4 times Z to the 0 power. So you evaluate the exponent on Z first. So that gives us -4 times 1. And then you multiply. So our answer is -4. All right, so the 0 for the exponent is not attributed to the 4 because it's not in parentheses. Okay, F, in parentheses, you have 4Z. Outside of parentheses, you have an exponent of 0. So therefore, everything in parentheses is to the 0 power. So that's equal to 1. All right, let's take a look at a few examples. All right, I want you to pause the recording and try questions 1 through 6, and then we will do them together. All right, Hopefully you paused the recording, and now we will do these together, starting with number 1, 7 to the 0 power. That equals 1. Number 2, in parentheses, -7, outside of parentheses to the 0 power. That equals 1. Number 3, -5 to the 0 power. Remember that negative really means a -1 times 5 to the 0 power. -1 is not to the 0 power. -1 is actually to the first power. We don't really need to write that, but just for emphasis. So we have 5 to the 0, which is 1. So -1 times 1 gives us -1. Number 4, y to the 0 power. That equals 1. Okay, number 5, -2x to the 0 power. Remember, x is to the 0 power. 2 is to the first power, or -2 is to the first power. So we have -2 times 1, because x to the 0 power is 1, and then this equals -2. That's your final answer. Okay, 6 in parentheses, we have 2x, and outside of parentheses, we have a power of 0, so that's equal to 1. All right, let's try a few more examples. Now here we have an expression that may seem kind of complicated, but it's really not. We have 3 parentheses, -5/7, close parentheses, to the 0 power. So I know that I want to take what's in parentheses to the 0 power first, and that gives me 3 times 1. And then I'm going to do my multiplication. So 3 times 1 gives me 3. So there's your answer. All right. Second part, 8 to the 0 power, that's equal to 1. All right, your turn. There's 2 here on the right. Pause the video and try them, and then we'll do them together. All right, hopefully you were able to do these. Let's do them together. We have 3 in parentheses, -5/3, close parentheses, to the 0 power. Our order of operations says we do exponents first. So we have here the -5/3 being taken to the 0 power is 1. So we have 3 times 1. And then 3 times 1 is 3. All right, secondly, we have negative parentheses, 2/3, close parentheses, to the 0 power. So that negative, we can assume that's like a multiplication of -1 times the 2/3, close parentheses, to the 0 power. Now, 2/3 is to the 0 power. -1 is not inside of parentheses, so it is not. So first we get -1, and then 2/3 to the 0 power is 1. And then multiply -1 times 1, and we get -1. Alrighty, folks. Hopefully that was helpful, and make sure you do your homework.